Hello, hello, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wow Wednesday. I am so happy to be here with you. I am Nancy Matthews, as you well know, one of the founders of Women's Prosperity Network. And we created Women's Prosperity Network 16 years ago as a community of continuing support for women entrepreneurs who are committed to themselves, committed to making a difference in their families, communities, businesses, and our world, and committed to supporting other women. It's really a beautiful community where we believe in living the one philosophy, treating everyone you meet as the one. And I would say, if you haven't been to one of our online classes, online networking events, or masterminds, join us. Come on in, and I trust that you will say, like most everyone does, oh, I feel like I'm home. Well, come on to our family and we'll say welcome home. And today, for our Wow Wednesday, we have the opportunity to interview and present to you one of our longtime members when we had in-person chapter meetings before she was traveling all over, because you've been moving around the last few years. PeggyLee Hanson was also a chapter leader with Women's Prosperity Network, and we're delighted to have her here today. She is an author, a speaker, as you'll see, and a publisher. And today's conversation is going to be around how to share your story from a heart space and share it with the world to make the difference you're here to make. So happy to have you with us today, PeggyLee.
Thank you, Nancy, and glad to be here. Honored to be here.
Yay, we are thrilled to have you with us. And just as a side note, I'll mention that several of our members, including myself and my sisters, have been a part of books that she published. PeggyLee published the last edition of the One Philosophy, the 10th anniversary edition, the second one. She published that for me as well. And I've been working with her on two more books that are in the works. So I'll just let that hang for a moment. But she is my go-to guide and resource when it comes to publishing and sharing my story so that it makes a difference for others. Let me tell you a little bit about her and her background, and then we'll jump into today's conversation. PeggyLee Hanson works with esteemed publishers to offer a transformative experience for aspiring authors. Renowned for her deep empathy and keen understanding of the author's journey, she excels at turning chaotic, fledgling ideas into polished public works. Her expertise is not just in writing and editing, but also in fostering a genuine connection with each writer, ensuring that their unique voice shines through their work. As the founder of Courageous Women Publications, she provides a nurturing environment where authors can grow. Her virtual writers' retreats are innovative and inspiring, filled with creative energy and practical advice, making the daunting process of writing enjoyable and accessible. Welcome, PeggyLee.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, let's jump in just a little bit because as I was sharing your background, one of the things that I know is that it can be really scary to put yourself out there in publishing a book, telling your story, even if it's a technical how-to, it's still like, oh, am I good enough? And so speak to some of that stuff that shows up for authors.
Okay, so before you write a book, a chapter, or your own book, however that works, you may feel that the most intimate story, whether you go through a divorce, bankruptcy, or the loss of a child, or something else, will pull you back into that experience all over again. How do you get through it when, especially, what you went through or how you went through it can help others not feel that same pain or prolonged pain that you had? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how to shared that story?
Because you may think, oh, all kinds of stuff can show up, shame, embarrassment, the delicacy of telling your story, but it involves other people, right? And how do you
Right.
honor them in that space? So how do we do this? What are some steps for getting started so that we can, step out? And I will say this, and I think you'll echo it. Every single one of you listening in has a story worth telling. One of the reasons I wanted Peggy Lee to come on with us today and have this conversation is that to remind you, you have not been through the challenges, trials, tribulations, no matter how big or how small, if you try to compare to someone else, right? You haven't been through that um, only to, cause challenge or suffer. You've been through that. If you're listening in and you're part of Women's Prosperity Network, you've been through that so that you can support someone else and that your story makes a difference for them. So, how do
Yeah.
we get started, my friend?
Well, to get started, what I'd like to say in addition to what you just said first is
Mm-hmm.
that a couple of weeks ago, Nancy and I were having a conversation, and she said to me, list everything that you have that has gone on in your life, from the good times and the bad times. And so I wrote down like about 7 or 8 items, like right off the bat. Some of them were very happy, some of them were very tough to get through. And so I had a kid with ADHD. He still has it today. He's 40 years old, and he still has it, and he's working through everything. And then I had a miscarriage when we were first married. And then I suffered a stroke last year. And living with negativity about money was a big one for me. And my first job, I almost got fired. And my second job, I was fired. So there's some kind of, things that happen along the way that, we just don't have necessarily the why and for the how and telling those stories.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get into the process. And the process that I have selected today is, first of all, you set clear intentions. Make sure your points you want to make before you begin to write or talk about, why you are writing about the topic for the chapter or for the book. Then you will want to create a safe writing environment. And by this, I mean a place that makes you feel safe and comfortable, and have candles burning, use essential oils, write in the journal first to prepare. That is very important to be grounded first.
Well, can I comment on that or ask you a
Yes.
question? I never thought about that. Um, and when you started talking about a safe environment, I was like, oh, I didn't really know what you meant by that. And I was
Mhm.
thinking, well, if I'm telling all these personal stories, maybe I need to hide and lock up my journals, but that's not it.
No.
Um, as you shared about, using essential oils, light aromatherapy, lighting some candles, um, it felt like that process of creating maybe even some ceremony around it will support the writing process, because oftentimes I've sat down and I'm like, okay, it's time for my writing. Like the flow just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, when you sit down to write, you're thinking, God, I got to write so much. How can I do that?
Yeah.
And by setting up this step, will help everything flow where it should.
Love it.
Not so, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
Mary Jane is taking some notes from it for us, so this is really good.
Thank you,
So
Mary Jane.
yeah, make a list of your points, happy, sad, one page at a time, write in a safe place so as not to be disturbed, because that's another part of it. It could interrupt your
Mhm.
flow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. And then the third step is to use a structured approach. Using a writing guide such as the one I have created is a good script. And the one that I have created is available at freechapterwritingguide.com. And it is the 5 elements based on to make a good chapter, to make good writing, strong writing, structured writing. Um, and it's for saying what you need to in an appropriate manner.
But
Eking out your
hang out,
hmm?
hang out on a second. So I just want to make sure everybody's going to say, what link was that? So freechapterwritingguide.com, which will give the 5 elements of writing a great chapter, correct?
Right,
All
right.
right, beautiful. I want to put that in the chat for everybody. And for those of you that are here with us on the phone, just go to freechapterwritingguide.com. And whether you're thinking about writing a book, you started writing a book, just go ahead and grab it. I promise you it'll make a difference. I use it as I'm putting my books together as well. So thank you, PeggyLee.
Yeah, you are most welcome. Um, so eking out your content with bullet points first is a structured approach. And so list like 3 or 5, no more than 7 elements or 7 points to your particular story.
Mhm.
And then you can flesh them out later, but just let them, sink in and see if they resonate, as you move through your content. The next step 4, is seek feedback early. A trusted editor or someone you rely on can help you in uncovering weaknesses in your writing. And this is not to say that you are weak. That is not what that means, but how you can enumerate or up your language to make your points strong. Because there's sometimes, you get to writing and you forget something that could make the sentence stronger, the point stronger, and someone else can see that. So a trusted editor, trusted friend is always good to have for feedback.
Yeah. So let's talk about this a little bit because I had some stuff come up for me when you just mentioned that. So I tend to not like to show my work until it feels like it's good. You know what I mean? Like, so I've done, maybe I've written 3 or 4 chapters, or I don't even know if they're chapters, they're a whole bunch of pages. And it feels a little naked, I guess, to share that before I've had the chance to go through and make sure it's good. So, what suggestions do you have for that?
Um, bite the bullet. Um, it's common, to feel that way. And um, so I would say just do it. Get to the point, because I know that it would feel very very critical to have someone look at your work at
Right?
that
It feels
point.
vulnerable, right? Like,
Vulnerable.
I'm already feeling vulnerable putting my words on paper in that way, right? And
Right.
then now I have to show it to someone else. What if it's not good enough? It's that silly little good enough monster that can show up.
Yeah. And, we all have that, we aren't good enough. And you will find that as you share your writing with other people, they will tell you you are good enough. So we need other people to help support us.
Yeah.
So that's the type of person that you want to find.
Yes, it's beautiful. And the other point that you mentioned, like when you have somebody else read through it, there could be, like, I know for me, when I tell a story, I think I'm giving all the pieces of the story that have it make sense for someone else. But somehow, like, there can be times when I skip a very important connecting piece that I assume other people know. So I think having a third party read your work early on, uh, allows you to know if it's got enough detail, if it has too much detail, because if you give too much detail, you're
Yeah.
going to lose attention. It's all of those pieces to support you in creating a great product. Yeah,
Right.
love it.
Right.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So, and the fifth and final step is to revise with distance.
What does that mean?
Revise with distance. You will know you have outgrown your situation when you can edit, write, and revise your manuscript without emotion or
Mm,
very little. Now, it is good to feel some emotion, of course, so that you can relate with integrity and honesty. And with those, um, you can seem to be as someone who you don't want to be. So without those, um,
but
having some emotion, is
mhm.
good, but you don't want to be, there writing, oh, I'm blubbering, while you're writing through, the story uh, of
Well, if
whatever it is.
right, if there's still pain, right? And so there's two levels about writing, um, as it pertains to working through a trauma, because I know there's a lot of times where you can write things out in order to process your emotions around it, right? But you don't want this to be the published work, because if you've got such a high level of emotion around it, that it interrupts your flow. It is disturbing to yourself and other people. There's probably still some more healing to happen, and it's not your audience's job to help you heal necessarily, right? So we don't want to use it
Yes.
for that reason.
Right, right. And you know what? There's always healing to happen. You can tell the story so many different times, and it could have happened 10 years ago, and you've told the story, how many times. I have one of my authors who is my writing coach talks about, she shares the story about she was standing in the cat food aisle wondering how much money she could spend on getting cat food to feed her cats because she was that poor in her wealth situation. And she wrote in my first book of Courage Under Siege her story, and it brought up for her the memories again that she had to go through to get through that situation again. And she was really surprised that that popped up for her. And so there will always be some little nuance that pops in.
Mhm.
And so just, embrace it,
Yeah.
and
And allow yourself to have those emotional responses. And one
right.
of the things that I heard a quote, Amy Porterfield is, I believe, who I heard this from. And she says, when you're telling your story, whether it's in writing or on stage, wherever that is. Tell stories that have become scars, not wounds, right? So a scar, I have a scar here from when I had surgery. I had thyroid surgery, and there's a whole story around that. Um, so I have a scar here, but if it was an open wound, we don't want to talk about it from that place. So scars are good, right? To talk from, not necessarily not open wounds. Um, how did you come up with the whole concept of Courage Under Siege? Because you've done how many volumes of this now?
I've done 6,
Wow.
and I'm now enrolling for volume 7. Um, Back in, I suppose probably about 10 years ago in 2015, 2014,
Mhm.
I was in Toastmasters and for 5 years. And when I was in Toastmasters, I was not only, a member, I was a district leader. And when you're a district leader, you have more responsibilities. You get to go out to all different clubs and listen to the stories that were told, especially for when we held our speaking contests. We
Oh, yeah,
hold
yeah, yeah.
them twice a year.
Mhm.
You have the humorous contest speaking, and you have the international part speaking. And I just I just sat there, and just thinking about all these stories that I heard, hundreds of stories that weren't going to go anywhere else. Some of them were so good, so poignant, so inspiring, only to hit nothing, a blank wall. And I thought, there's got to be a way of how to tell the stories. And then I just kind of like woke up for a moment and said to myself, you're a publisher. You can publish those stories, so get people to tell your stories, and so that's where how Courage Under Siege was born.
Mhm. I mean, that is so good. That is so, oh yeah, I'm a publisher. Let's do
Sure.
this. And one of the things that I know about, having personally worked with you, and so many of my clients also working with you in telling their story, um, you discovered how difficult it can be for some people to share their stories. So, can you share a little bit about the process that you've developed to kind of nurture? I would say nurture authors through the process.
Yes. So again, it's through a writing template that I share with my authors. And only that whoever enlists in the book get this template. And it's a very step by step on how to put their chapter together.
Mhm.
And so it's the 5 elements, like I said, the message, the quote, the backstory, the main story, and the wrap up. Um, to have them go through the steps that there are, really can have them do a deep dive into that story. And I'm with them all the way, 100%. I hold their hands, I hold them, and it's just a beautiful spot, a space to be in. When they come with me with difficulty in writing their story, it's usually at the very beginning. And when they get done after 30 days, they said, I can't believe I did that. And they turn out a beautiful story. Each one has said, I can't believe I wrote this in 30 days,
Yeah.
and
And these
it's
are
just beautiful.
personal stories, and because it's published, I'm sure we can talk about it because it's out there. Um,
Mhm.
One of Carol Vince's story, I believe when she first said, I want to be a part of this project, she had a different story she was going to tell than the one that ended up getting published. Is that correct? Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, you do. And Carol came to me. She signed up for it. She says, I'm ready to do this. And then the morning we met one morning at somewhere, and she says, I'm backing out. I don't know if I can do this. And so she and I had a conversation, and I said, well, what do you want to talk about? What do you really want to talk about? Because she's a great organizer. And
Mhm. And
she created
project
this.
manager and corporate time management. Yeah, she's amazing.
She's
Yeah.
amazing. And she said, well, you see, I have this condition. And she said, I've determined, that I was ADD. And from that point, she said, I've suffered through this for all my life, and I just don't know if I can write this book, write this chapter. And so we talked a little bit, and I gave her encouragement. And I think some of that encouragement came from my son, who is also ADHD.
Mhm.
And so what we settled on, we realized how her ADHD or ADD, whichever one it is, one's hyperactivity, um, really helped her become organized in her work in the corporate world.
Mm.
Because she needed the structure. She had this wonderful program, on the structure that she had put together and she was going to write about, but it became so she talked about the ADHD.
And
So that was,
she never would have seen that had she not had this deeper conversation to encourage her and say, okay, so you don't think you can write this chapter. Why? What's getting in the way? And it's the thing that was getting in the way that she ended up seeing as her blessing, right? They say, your
yeah,
message is inside the mess,
yeah,
right? Things
yeah.
like that. Wow.
And so now look at her now. She's all over the ADHD, and she brings that into her work, and she talks about it more freely, and she's just phenomenal.
And because she had the courage to share her story, look at all the people who are probably hiding in the shadows, not wanting to let anybody know that they have ADD or ADHD or on any level of that. Oh, I don't want to tell people because then I'll be labeled and then they'll think I can't perform as well. These helping all of those people be in mainstream and actually stand out as exceptional.
Yeah,
Yeah, amazing,
yeah, yeah.
amazing stuff.
And there's more stories like that through, I've had 42 people run through the whole series of authors, of Courage Under Siege, and there's story after story after story. There's one that I'm thinking of right now that she had alopecia, the hair
Hair
loss.
loss, yeah.
And it was like she was married to her husband for, I don't know, 5 years, maybe. I don't know. That's not, maybe not right. And he did not know that she suffered from this disease. And she finally got the guts to tell
Courage.
him.
Yeah.
And and she told him, and so then she wrote out her story in the book as well.
Wow. And once she got set free, right? She could be able to share it with others and that's what happened. So
Yeah.
let me say this to everybody listening in. Do that activity, write down the different events and stories and things that have happened. Have a conversation with Peggy Lee and remembering that the story did not happen to have you suffer. It happened to help you transform. And you probably already know that. right? Because that's who our community is, right? We don't sit in the role of victim, we choose to be victors. And now let's look at that next level of leadership and how can I use that story to support someone else's victory, to champion someone else through a similar challenge, right? That's what we're looking at. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. So PeggyLee, we're going to give your information in the chat so that people can reach out to you. And look, halfway, the conversation always goes so fast with us. When we're doing a coaching session, I looked down at the time, I was like, oh yeah, I guess we should be up now. Right? It happens every time.
Always
So
good. Always good.
yes. So I know that you put something special together for your WPN sisters. So do you want to talk about that a little bit while I put the link in the chat?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
What I've put together, the most comprehensive guide to help you quickly figure out what your book will be about, from the overall idea to having a clear and concise chapter topic or book topic. By asking pointed questions, this tool is ordered in nature to take those gazillion thoughts that are swirling around in your head and downsize them into a concise outline that will entice your reader and put them in your pocket. This guide has been tested by many a user and it will work for you. So it's the two-step
It's a guide, I think, right? It's a guide.
Yeah, it's a two-step book outline guide, and to help you. So it really starts off with the nuts and bolts first as an overall look, but by the time you're done with the guide, is that it will give you an outline that you are looking for. Oh, and Nancy, we have even a special price for the guide. It's $27, not $47. So we knocked off another $20 for you.
Wow. Thank you. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, this is what our community does for each other.
Yeah.
This is deliver and then over deliver. So thank you for that generosity.
Yeah. So this is no dates, and times. I think Rose had a question on that. So it can work for nonfiction and fiction too.
Let me address the question. So PeggyLee, I'll handle the questions coming in. So then it's easy. Yep, I got you, girl. Remember?
Thank you.
All right, so let me give everyone the information. I know we got lots of people on the phone. So you want to get this writing guide to create the outline for your book. And let me say this. I am using the outline because I have lots of ramblings, but I have no structure to these two books that I'm writing. So what this guide has helped me do is organize my thoughts and take my ramblings and putting them into a structure as we talk about here, because you probably wouldn't want to just read my ramblings. It's got to have some flow to it. So go to, and it's only $27. I thought it was more than that. So yay, thank you for that. And you're going to go to bit.ly /BK outline, all lowercase, all one word. So BK like book. So BK outline, bit.ly /BK outline. So go ahead and grab that. And you can also get for free the free chapter writing guide. And you just go to freechapterwritingguide.com. I would suggest get that for sure, because that'll help you with the internal structure of each chapter. what the book outline does is take it all and give you a place to come from. It also helps me and other writers, I imagine, not suffer from blank page syndrome. Like writer's block. Okay, I got my candle, I got my music set. What am I writing about today? The outline gives us a place to always start from. So it's really good, really, really good. All right, we're going to open up. This is the point in our show where you get to ask questions and share questions, ahas, and insights, or add to the conversation with our author today. So if you are with us on Zoom, you can hit *6. If you're on your phone, raise your hand. If you're on the computer, we'd love to hear from you. And if you're with us through Facebook, put your question in the comments and I will bring that to Peggy Lee as well. Now, a couple things we did have in the chat already. So first of all, Rose, there's no dates and times to this. This is a self-guided outline that you'll be able to use. So go ahead and grab it and work on it when you can. So that works out really nice. And then April asked for Peggy Lee, do you also work, do you work with nonfiction or fiction authors or both? And will this guide work for both? So let's talk about that a little bit.
I'm mainly nonfiction, but I have worked with fiction writers and mainly as editors to fix their books. And I'm also known as the fixer. People come to me. People come to me with, "Can you help me with the books? I can't get it on Kindle. You know, I'm having an issue with it. Can you help?" So I can do that as well. The outline can help with fiction writers as well, with just a few nuance changes, upticks to it. So yeah, it can work.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. All right, let's go ahead and take questions, ahas, and additions from our audience. I believe somebody at phone number 850-245. Did you have a question you wanted to ask or add?
Yes, this is Joy Cross Smith, and I was calling from Tallahassee, and I'm currently writing my memoir. I'm specifically writing it for my twins, but it's about being from a closed adoption and taken into by an abused adoptive mom and struggling of being mixed race back in the 60s and 70s. And then on my last chapter, it's called Two at a Time, which talks about my first marriage, which turned out to be abusive, the birth of my twins, and then our divorce. And I just, the story is really about helping others that have been in similar situations as I ended up being in. And I was just checking with Peggy Lee to see if it was possible, if I sent her what I've written so far, if she could, help me with edits, or does it cost money if she helps me out?
Yeah, definitely. Send me the well, let's first have a conversation.
Maybe a sample chapter, maybe a sample chapter.
Yeah.
What's your email address?
It is Peggy Lee at PeggyLeeHanson.com.
There you go. And I just put it in the chat as well. So Peggy Lee, PeggyLee at Peggy Lee Hanson, and that's HANSON.com. What did you say your name was?
This is Joy Cross.
Joy.
I'm divorced, but it's Joy Cross.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you for your courage and your commitment in sharing your story and telling it. It's important on many levels, is what I'm picking up, and got little goosey bumps. I can't wait to read it and maybe interview you on one of our shows.
I've actually worked with the state Department of Health and here in Florida for 25 years, and there are so many people that know bits and pieces of my story, but everybody's just can't wait for it. And it was just funny because I was listening to Joel Osteen this morning, and he was talking about how he can put people in place to help you, because I really feel like God is telling me to write this book. And so it's just interesting that this is what, you're on today.
The topic was wonderful. Today, right?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll be in touch.
There are no coincidences.
Right?
True.
Only God coincidences.
I believe you.
I love it. And what's so beautiful is this moment just passed for all of us to experience that are with us today is we will be supported to share those messages. So I just want to encourage anybody out there who's thinking, maybe I should, I don't know, is it worth it, telling my story or growing that business or whatever inspired idea you may have right now. I want you to trust that you're meant to move forward with it. And they say, leap, to go ahead and take the jump and the net will appear. Here's the net. Whatever it is that you're about, our community has someone and or all of us to support you in that next step. So take the leap and we are the net. Just anyway.
Absolutely.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Again, I'm taking questions, callers. Let's go to Fabulous Camille. I'm so glad you're here and you raised your hand because, honey, your story. You need to tell your story, you and Albert's story.
Yes, Miss Nancy. Good morning, Miss Nancy. Good morning, Miss PeggyLee. You're right. And I was just thinking about, especially what you said, the womb versus the scar, because that's one of the reasons why I hold back my story, because I have several different parts of the story and it need to be told because the story would help to heal someone else. And listening to Miss Peggy, of course, it will heal somebody. So that's why I'm glad I was here, because last night that was on my head all night. And this morning I was on a conference call and they were talking about, when are you going to write your book? And I'm on the call today with Miss Nancy and she's talking about, when are you and Mr. Rob going to write books? So it's like, okay, I hear you, God. I hear you. Okay. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it could be that you start with a chapter, right? Like, a great way to get started to tell your story is to tell one story. And that's why PeggyLee has the Courage Under Siege series. So you may want to reach out to her, and because you can tell one story faster than you're going to write the entire book. So you'll start making a difference for people. And she does most of the heavy lifting.
I do most of the heavy lifting.
Thank you so much, ladies.
You are most welcome. I love you. And thank you for how you show up in the world and how you serve. You're a beautiful lady.
I love you too, Miss Nancy. Thank you for all that you do. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Beautiful. Once again, you want to go to bit.ly/BK outline, all lowercase, all one word. The links are in the chat. I just wanted to make sure everybody who's here with us on the phone had the opportunity to grab it. So let's go to our next caller, Peg Duchesne.
Hello, PeggyLee Hanson. Thank you, Nancy, so much. PeggyLee, I've been a distant admirer for a while. You had me at 47, and then when you said, no, wait, we knocked off $20 more, I couldn't fill it out fast enough. Thank you so much. And the thing I'm most looking forward to is our one-to-one, because I know you and I can collaborate on some great things. So I'm so looking forward to this, and thank you for the awesome deal you've given us this morning.
You are so welcome, Peg. I love you. So can't wait to look for conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody who hasn't yet pulled the plug and signed up, it's well worth it. So go get it. Thank you, Nancy.
Of course, always, my friend. And
can I take a second and give my favorite WPN quote?
Yeah.
this correlates with what the woman who said this is exactly what she needed, the answers to her prayers. Here at WPN, we may not have it all together, but, or I should say, and together we have it all. So thank you, Nancy. And I interrupted you. What did you start to say?
As I see you as well as Camille, and I see Mary Jane with her hand up to comment, what's happening for me is flooding through my mind are the stories I know about you and the impact I see them having as you share them, because I'm like, oh my gosh, when Peg tells her story, when Mary Jane, I'm just like fluttering with excitement of the impact each and every one of you is having and will have in an amplified way when you tell your story at the next level.
Fabulous. Thank you.
I'm happy you got the outline. I guess that's what that was.
And remember, you don't have to write a full book to share your story. You can just write a chapter. And that's another reason why I have created this series.
Yeah, it makes it easier and quicker, and lets us start making the difference with your stories. So it's so good. Anyway, Peg Duchesne, I love you. Thank you so much for being with us today and always. Fabulous.
Right back.
Yeah. And let me just say, Peg has been around since the beginning of Women's Prosperity Network.
You haven't even chosen the name yet, and I met you.
I know. Sure. We had a different name. I think I still have that banner somewhere from the other name. That a story for another day. There you go. All right. Let's go to our next caller. Actually, right before I bring on Mary Jane, I'm loving this comment that I see from Facebook that says, from Hope, yay, Hope, glad you were here. This was just what I needed. This month makes 10 years so that I got certified as a health coach and said, I'm going to start writing my book this month. So she's breaking generational health. Like we talk about breaking generational wealth patterns, this is about health patterns. So good for you, Hope. Get the chapter writing guide, reach out to PeggyLee, and let's get her done because we need it. Right? So good. All right, let's go to Mary Jane Charles, who was our scribe today. Thank you for taking such good notes. I appreciate that.
Thank you. You're welcome. I thought I'd give it a try, but you speak quickly, and I'm like, I don't know what the next one is. But anyway, it's fun. So, writing a book. My story, world fell apart 9 years ago, and I was having a fit because I didn't know what to do, and I had no one to help me. At my desk or the dining room table, and each pile became a chapter. Where that thought came from, I don't know. I do write. I always have written. And so that was the beginning of my book. I finished the book because I was incensed that I was in this position. So whether you're overwhelmed or overwrought, it was cathartic for me. It helped my body, my brain. I basically went bleh on the table and had a fit. I yelled and screamed. No woman, no person, but in my case, a woman, should have to go through this. So that was the tone I took, the attitude I had. Big time. I could have gone in the main ring at any.
Oh, did we lose her? Mary Jane? Something happened.
Something happened, yeah.
I love what Anne just listed in the chat while Mary Jane works it out. Anne McLaughlin says, Peggy has helped me transform my life by starting a chapter in Courage Under Siege, which was called Flight to Light. Now she has her own compilation series, Embrace Your Fruit, Overcoming to Becoming. PeggyLee is truly an inspirational and talented author, book, and coach. We should grab that to put on your website. So thank you for that. And take a screenshot of it. I'll grab it for you.
Okay.
I got you. I'm going to do it.
Anne is my star my star student, my star author. She wasn't really sure what she wanted to write. She's another one that's not sure what she should write. She wrote the chapter and she was hooked. She was hooked from that part. And then she got the idea, to do her own series, and I encouraged her to do her own series. And she got her own authors lined up and away we went. I took them through my program, the same one that I do for my authors. I just transformed it for her authors, and then I published her series. So it's wonderful. I do that too.
If I want to do my own anthology or compilation, you'll do that?
Yes, I will.
Yay!
Yes, I will.
At the end of the day, everyone, have a conversation with Peggy Lee. Get the free writing guide, freechapterwritingguide.com, and also the book outline, which she gives you to do in 2 steps. It's phenomenal. And she's given it as a gift for WPN members at $27 plus a one-on-one consult. So go ahead and grab that by going to bit.ly/BK outline. So go ahead and grab that. And I'll put the link in the chat one more time. My dear, dear friend, thank you for being with us on the show, for all that you do to equip and guide people in sharing their story to make a difference in the world, because your ripple effect is huge, my friend. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you again for having me. This is my light. My authors are my light and my life. I am so indebted to them for making my life seem worthwhile. I just have so much love for them, for you, for everybody in WPN. You have been my inspiration. And, it was one of your coaches at the time, Tasha Chen, who said, we were in a group together and she says, I know somebody who can do that for you, who wanted to write a book. And so she introduced me to that person, and away I went. I had a business, and it's been lovely, beautiful. So
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, we are grateful that you stepped up to follow your North Star and your purpose and what you're here to do. And I thank you for myself personally, as well as all of the authors that you've helped get their stories out there. I love you.
I love you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, everyone. Get out there and make this a wow day, remembering that everything you've been through has brought you to this place so that you can make an even bigger difference in the world. We love you, we honor you, and we thank you for being a part of our family. Get out there, have a day. Bye, everyone.